So in our last episode, we walked through the three main factors that contribute to causing inflation, right? The first one was our demand side, to say that people are willing to pay more to go to the Super Bowl, to sit in the same seat that they would have sat in for a regular season game because they value it more. On the flip side, we saw the supply issues, that prices will go up inconsistently if the cost of production goes up, right? So whether it's labor spikes that, it's hard to find workers, so I need to pay more. If you think about this, was really prevalent during COVID, that very few people wanted to go work. And so to get people to show up, you had to do hazard pay and all of that. And all of that was a driver of inflation during that time, that it was ultimately costing a lot more to get the same workforce and the same products. And so you had to raise your prices to just stay the same. And the third one is just that baseline, that over time, even if nothing else changes, and people will expect to make more, right? That minimum wage to go up. People will expect to, have a higher real estate, and then there's just an inherent level of inflation that will happen over time. So combining those three, we know that over a 10-year period, prices will go up. The question is when and how, and it won't be this steady stream, it will be inconsistent. So what we want to do in this section is really think about finding your baseline. Now, for a lot of you, you have softwares that can track the pricing of your products, which is great information. But I think a lot of what we see now is almost too much information, right? Like, what do I do with the fact that eggs are more expensive today than they were 4 weeks ago? Does that mean I have to raise prices on everything? Like, finding that time where it's like, okay, now I need to do something, because it's really at that tipping point. So what we want to do is, whether you're in a period accounting or monthly accounting, find that time as part of our monthly close. We're really going to look at the price of products and potentially even wages. So we can really track, has anything spiked since the last time I looked, which would have been last month. So what we want to do is find those 5 key ingredients. Now, you see this a lot on a global scale in what the government does, or they call their consumer pricing index. So that's actually what they do. They take the 5 to 8 items that people use the most or value the most. They come up with their own reason for what goes on their list. But when you hear about like consumer price index, that's really what they're doing. So what we want to do is have our own version of that for you. So in my view, this would be the products that you purchase the most, the key core products that drive your cost of goods the most. So if this would be, if you're serving a lot of chicken nuggets, this would be the cost of chicken. Coming up with your top 5 items that would really drive your decision. Now, in a separate work paper, what we want to do is just every month. Now, again, this is not something that you, the owner, necessarily have to do, but this would be great for your team to do, because I think too many times we're frustrated that our team doesn't care or doesn't know. But I think what we want to do is drive them to finding that process to where they're getting this information in front of them. So this is a great way to sort of break it down in that simple view of, here's the 5 to 8 items that I care about, and I want to track the price of those items every 30 days. So at the end of every month, I'm going to look at, what are my price of eggs? What's my price of chicken? What's my price of cheese? And a lot of times this can be done pretty quickly if the software can do an average, or you could do the last price paid. So you could do it either way. You could take your average over last month versus your average over the month before, or what did I pay on my last order of cheese this month versus my last order of cheese last month. However we're doing it, we just want to be consistent. And what we want to see is, for those 8 items, if we look at my last item, now again, I would do this on a per unit. So however you buy your cheese, however you buy your chicken, whether it's case, whatever it is, but be consistent there too. And then what we want to do is just take the change. So for eggs, making sure I'm using the same units over the 2 periods. And then what's my average change? Did it change 3%? Maybe it even went down. There's some periods where it goes down. I mean, I renegotiated with my supplier. I got a better deal. Now I'm saving 2%. That's okay. That's a good thing. But ultimately, you, the owner, getting you this information every month will be very valuable for you to say, okay, do I need to do anything? Because if I see a 5 to 8% across the board, that might be like a red flag. I need to go back to my ordering, go back to my supplier, Or maybe I really need to look at, like, this is inherent. Everybody's paying more for chicken. Everybody's paying more for eggs. Maybe I need to do something here. But either way, what this one step will do is keep you proactive, to keep you looking at this and being aware of this before it's 6-12 months later where all of a sudden our margin has deteriorated. Now, the final piece that I would add here is your rates, your labor rates, right? Like if you're posting a job today for your server or your back of house, right? If you're, I would say your entry level positions, put what you're doing rate wise, because that also too sometimes changes without you, the owner, even knowing it. Like, I gotta raise it to $15 an hour because I'm not getting anyone at 13. Okay, that sounds like a minor change, not that big of a deal. But if we annualize that change, it is a big deal to our labor. So if we can put those rates here and track what are we offering, not that we shouldn't offer more, but this exercise is really about you finding that baseline so that we ultimately can make sure that your model still works even when these spikes happen throughout the year. Because when we're looking over a course of a year, you can't see all these changes. But as we break it down and we simplify it and we start to look weekly and then period end, we really can start to see when things start to change and ultimately can be proactive so that our bottom line is protected. So if you look in the notes, you're gonna find our example of this work paper, and I challenge everybody, go create it. It's gonna take you 30 minutes, right? Not a lot of time, but now you have your own version of the CPI, your own version of your price index, where you can know and be confident in being in control of your pricing and ultimately being in control of your margin, regardless of what's going on around you. So let's go.